Hi, I'm Steve Pleich, and welcome to this month's edition of Nonprofit Spotlight. Nonprofit Spotlight is a production of the Volunteer Advisory Committee here at Community Television. And every month we highlight a nonprofit in our city or county that's doing wonderful, wonderful work. And this month we're really happy to have the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center, and Julie Macecevic is here, their Executive Director. Julie, welcome.
Thank you.
And it's especially appropriate. This show, as viewers might know if they've seen previous editions, is evergreen, so it'll play several times during the year. But as we are taping this today, we are in October, which is Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Month. So it's just appropriate to mention that so people can reflect on that when they see it at any time during the year. Julie, we're going to play a short clip that we have to give people just a kind of glimpse of the great work you're doing, and then we're going to come back and talk a lot more about it. So let's see that clip, and then we'll come right back.
I'm Lynn Boulay. I am the Director of Advocacy and Prevention here at Walnut Avenue. We have participants here. We do not have clients. We're all participants. The woman that answers the phone is a participant. Anyone who walks through the door and gets services is a participant. We have peer one-on-one advocacy. So our participants are able to meet with an advocate one-on-one. We have a variety of support groups that they can attend, a staff person or an educated volunteer, but also from other peers who are experiencing similar situations as theirs.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I work at the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center as a domestic violence advocate. I also help oversee the donation coordination, and I'm also the intake program supervisor. I enjoy working here because we every day can make little small impacts on people. We can help people overcome difficult situations with the services we provide. I would say most of us enjoy working here and dealing with the success stories. We are structured differently than most agencies, so we're able to do maybe things that other agencies are not.
My name is Anna. I am a bilingual domestic violence and children and youth advocate. One of the things that I really enjoy about working at Walnut Avenue is just being able to support the local Latino community. Really enjoy being able to provide them a space to discuss the issues that are really important to them, whether it's healthy relationships or having to navigate around anti-Latino sentiment that they might be experiencing out in the community. The other thing I really enjoy is to be able to support immigrant families or immigrant people who might be experiencing domestic violence. They face unique challenges both on the domestic violence side of things and on the immigration front. So one of the things that I get a lot out of this work is just being able to give them the correct information and just seeing the progression of them going from being absolutely terrified of being in contact with law enforcement or even just community organizations to them feeling like they're able to get something done and they are able to get the support that they need.
So my name is Claudia, and my position, I am the program supervisor for the legal program, the children's group, and the community education program. Started volunteering here as a legal advocate, and from there it's just gotten progressively better for me because I really enjoy filling out the paperwork, safety planning with these people. I enjoy seeing how the judge interacts with the people, being able to help them see how they can talk to the judge, because going to court is really scary to begin with. So I really enjoy that. I also really enjoy that we are more of a family sort of agency where we help out the children and we help out the teens and we help out the parent in this case, right? I work a lot with children, so I really enjoy being able to talk to them, do art projects. If something's really, not going well, being able to help them out with that and be a safe person for them, because a lot of the times these children don't have a lot of safe people in their lives.
I love the fact that we are a part of the community, that volunteers come from this neighborhood, that people have grown up around here. People come in and say, my mother got services here, I want to volunteer. Or, you know, I was in the youth group, you know, 20 years ago, I want to volunteer.
And that wonderful rolling gives you just a glimpse of the work that's being done by the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center. That's wonderful. Julie, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the area of domestic violence prevention.
Sure. So I'm actually a trained and licensed clinical psychologist.
Oh.
So I went to school up in Palo Alto, and then I worked for about 8 years at a very large nonprofit up there called Star Vista, working with homeless youth and youth development and incarcerated girls. And so I did my pre-doc and post-doc with that particular nonprofit. And then life changed, as it does. I had bought a home down here in Santa Cruz with my husband, and then I got pregnant with twins. So I was no longer willing to drive.
There you go.
Thank you.
Wow.
I was no longer willing to drive over the hill to San Carlos to my job, which I loved. So it just was synchronistic. It happened at the right time. They were searching for an ED at the same time. I was on maternity leave and looking for a job closer to home. And you know, it's in the field. Really get to work with people in need and provide my clinical expertise.
So it's Dr. Julie Macecevic? Well, fantastic. That's wonderful. So as we were discussing, I went through the training in 2009 and really loved the agency and all the great things that they're doing over there throughout their history. And so now you are still providing these terrific services. And tell us a little bit about the kind of services that the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center is providing, and you know, some of the things that that people who are really at risk for domestic violence, you know, can expect in the way of services from you.
Sure. So the organization has actually been around for 84 years.
Wow.
So we started in 1933 as a YWCA and purchased that beautiful blue home in 1944. It wasn't until 1994, actually, that the leadership at the time decided that they really wanted to expand the services for battered women, and that's when we changed our affiliation from the Y and became the Walnut Avenue Women's Center. And then in 2015, when I came on, we did a rebrand again and changed the name to Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center. And one of the reasons we did that is because people really knew us for our services for women, but we wanted to get a couple of things across. One is that domestic violence does not just happen to women. It happens to all ages and all genders, and so we don't only just serve women. In addition, we really try very hard to take a holistic approach and meet the needs of the entire family. Right. And while we are most known for our domestic violence programs, it seems we've actually been doing early childhood education programs for 45 years. Really? So that predates our work with domestic violence, going all the way back to our YWCA years. Yeah, so we have an entire child care, early childhood education center. It's located behind Santa Cruz High School. So we work with low-income families, and we prioritize teen parents. We actually took over the Teenage Mom program from the Santa Cruz City School District in 1990. So now we have a full center, 0 all the way up to kindergarten. And like I said, we focus on teen parents, low-income families. It's a state-subsidized early childhood education center, something that's really in need in Santa Cruz right now. At one point this year, we had a wait list of 100 families. So there's a real lack in Santa Cruz right now. So that's our early childhood. It's
great information, because I didn't realize that you were doing work in early childhood cognition. I did not know that. I think most people would find that fascinating and would broaden their understanding of kind of what you do, because of the emphasis really in Santa Cruz. And we do a decent job here in Santa Cruz of being aware of domestic violence and domestic violence prevention with the Commission for the Prevention of Violence Against Women, with the liaison of the police department. They do a very good job, and they keep the statistical surveys of that kind of thing, so that you're aware of that. But it's such important work to be more holistic about it.
Right, and so that was hence the addition of family. You know, a lot of people just are not aware of that piece of our history and of what we do, but it's a big portion of what we do. So then the other department is the our advocacy and prevention department. So that's our services for survivors of domestic violence and our services for children and youth. Our services for survivors, we have a 24-hour hotline. Volunteers such as yourself.
Yes, indeed, back in the day.
We do a full training 2 times a year. It's anywhere between 40 and 65 hours of training to become a certified advocate for survivors of domestic violence. And they help us with our 24-hour hotline. But we also offer one-on-one peer counseling. We do support groups. We have a lot of community education pieces, tabling at events and really getting out there and just talking to people and trying to increase the awareness. Domestic violence is, it's not something everybody wants to talk about, but it's something we need to talk about. If anyone reads the Sentinel, they do that.
Yes,
they
do
a tally
every year.
Every October. I think we're up to about 325, and it's only the 25th of the month. So
is that just anecdotally? Is that higher or lower than past years?
It's about so last October is about 500. So we're in the same ballpark. Unfortunately, there's a lot. And so that tally is the number of law enforcement calls, domestic violence related. Other in our domestic violence, so we do legal advocacy. We accompany folks to court. We will help fill out restraining order. And then in addition to that, we do emergency services. So if somebody needs to get out of a dangerous situation immediately, we can provide overnight accommodations and food, clothing. We can even provide, we have a whole inside donation room that is dedicated to people who need to reestablish a household if they are starting over. We have a tremendous amount of wonderful donors, a lot of in-kind donations, and we can help sort of stock an apartment for somebody.
One of the programs that I was most impressed by when I was involved many years ago was your youth programs. You're teaching young men about the sensitivities of domestic violence and making them aware of the role they play in breaking that cycle of violence.
Absolutely. We really see that, one of our biggest, it's one thing to address the current domestic violence situations that are going on and provide those services, but if we in Santa Cruz County have any chance of actually reducing family violence, we really think that the youth is the place to start. So we have anywhere from little kids, so if parents come into our support groups, we will have groups during those support groups, and part of that is to reduce the barrier of no child care.
Right.
You can't come into a support group if you have baby in tow, right? So we will provide small children mentorship, and we actually look at it as an opportunity. We use an art program called A Window Between Worlds. It's specifically designed for art therapy with people who are survivors of trauma. So that's what we do with the little kids while the parents are in support groups. Then we have a teen group every Thursday night. So we are, and it's really the education piece and fun activities. And like you said, we're trying to educate this next generation.
Exactly.
What does a healthy relationship look like? And how can you support a friend or a family member if you see that they're going through a domestic violence situation? We also work with intimate partner violence, so with the teen population. And then we have a summer program, what we call YAC, Youth Adventure Club. So we take those same kids that are coming to our support groups and we go out and we do fun stuff. Because if you want to keep youth involved, you got to do fun stuff, right? And our goals are really to increase the anchors for kids, more positive adult role models, more peers that they can relate to. And then we go out and we go to the boardwalk and we go to the aquarium and we do fun stuff. And the other thing I just want to mention about the services for children and youth is that we go into schools and we do healthy relationships and life skills classes, talk about consent and what a healthy relationship looks like, and share tools of how to be an ally and how to address situations when you see, because the best way to interact or to intervene with other youth is that their peers,
of course,
being supportive and knowing where to send them.
That peer support model is just invaluable. And before we go on, and I want to ask you a little bit about your training and how people can get involved doing the great work you're doing. I want to make sure that people know what your website is, how they can make small donations if they like, and how they can find out more about being part of the work you do.
Yeah, so you can always call the center. We have a wonderful front desk staff that is answering the phone between 9 and 5 that you were able to work with.
Absolutely, for all those years back. It's fantastic. The stability you have with that is just remarkable. So anyway,
yeah, so you can always call, you can always drop in. Our website is www.wafwc.org. You can donate through Facebook. There's a Donate Now button on Facebook, and then there's a Donate Now button on our website.
Wonderful.
You can also mail us a check if you like. Sure.
And as a veteran, and as I say, I went through the training in 2009 myself and did work as a DV hotline responder for a year, as well as a legal advocate. But I found the training wonderful and informative, not just simply because it prepares you to do those things, but the broad base of understanding about power and control wheels and breaking the cycle of violence. Tell us a little bit about your training, what people could expect if they would like to be, to call and be involved in this work themselves.
Sure. So we provide a certification training to become a certified advocate for survivors of domestic violence. And it's required to be 40 hours, but we do more like 65 hours because we add in other topics like trauma-informed care and working with children and youth. And so a person will become involved just by giving us a call. First thing they would do is come to a volunteer orientation. And then we have an info night. That's the first night of training. And then right now the way it's set up is on Saturdays to accommodate.
Now you're having them right on site there, are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Right on site in downtown Santa Cruz. And then it's a series of Saturday and Wednesday night classes, basically. And we have a curriculum that we go through. Like I said, some of it is required by the state, and other of it is just things that we've decided is necessary to help someone. It's not easy being a hotline
No,
responder.
it is not, and you really have to understand the legal aspects of it. You would become a mandated reporter, for instance.
Right.
Maybe people would like to know just a little bit about what that means, just briefly.
Sure. Well, we definitely encounter, so it is now law that being a witness to domestic violence as a child is considered child abuse. So when a mandated reporter becomes aware of that in a family, we are mandated to report that so that Children and Family Services can step in and provide some support for those families and hopefully get rid of the violence that's happening at home.
And it's for as serious a subject as this is, the training and the kind of camaraderie and the collegial atmosphere that you have and the people who are the trainers, it's a wonderful experience to go through. And I'll analogize it to you. I also did, after I did the DV hotline, I worked for suicide prevention for about 8 years.
Okay, great.
And it's one thing to kind of go through the training, but it's another to finish your training and say, okay, now you're going to take a shift. So, but those kinds of trainings, particularly at Walnut Avenue Women's and Family Center, the Family and Women's Center, there were such great people, and so, committed to their work. That it's really admirable, and it's something everybody should not only understand but involve themselves into if they get an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That was one of the things that drew me in when I interviewed just 2 years ago, is that the people at Walnut Avenue are just compassionate and present, and a lot of them have some of their own histories where they can resonate with the participants, and it really is a very warm and welcoming place with just an incredible circle of supporters and donors and community partners and funders. So,
and I want to make sure that people get that website again and the phone number. But let's give it to them now, because I want to ask you one other question about DV and prevention.
Yeah, the website is www.wafwc.org, Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center.org.
Good.
Thank you.
Has your work been influenced at all or changed at all by the new policies from the administration about how reluctant some Latina women would be to report incidents of domestic violence, fearing that their partner may be subject to deportation?
Definitely. I mean, we went, especially immediately after all of those things were happening, we heard about a lot of fear in people who didn't want to come forward. We really try to be very vocal about the fact that we want everyone to feel comfortable coming in. We have structures and policies around how we would handle something like that, but your information is absolutely confidential when you call our hotline or when you do a walk-in. And so we would try to prevent, anything like that happening. However, people are scared. It's nerve-wracking when you're in a vulnerable position, and that could expose your immigrant status. It's hard to step forward. Now,
are you yourself out doing some of the tabling and outreach and getting out in the community and kind of spreading the word of domestic violence prevention?
I am when I can. Yes, indeed. Yes, I mean we're invited so many wonderful places to table, and we were just on the street because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We were on the street. We do the first working business day is Day of Unity. So we go out on Pacific Avenue and we sit with Monarch Services and the Commission for Prevention of Violence Against Women and the CARE office at UCSC, and we just hand out information and just try to educate the public that this is a problem here in Santa Cruz, and these are the resources that you can access.
And I know every year you have the clothesline exhibit. You tell people a little bit about that, because that's something that it may not come up when we play this again, but it may at some point in the future you want to say, geez, that sounds like something I really want to be involved in to honor the victims of domestic violence.
Yeah, so we had a great number, I want to say 7 to 10 of our community partners that offered, including the MA, UCSC, CARE office, the Diversity Center, and several more that were willing to put a clothesline up. The Clothesline Project is essentially, it's an outreach and education campaign. The T-shirts are made by survivors, and they're painted by the survivors with messages of, some of them are really hard to read, and other ones are messages of strength, and you can do it, and so it's really just so that people can see these are real people and real lives that are being greatly affected. Some of the most touching ones are our baby like onesies, and this affects all ages of the family.
And how closely do you work with the County of Santa Cruz?
Very closely. In fact, we just received additional funding to help us with our youth advocacy and hopefully outreaching to more schools this year. And so, and also the county provides us support through the CalWorks program. We have several actually grants through the County of Santa Cruz. They're very supportive.
Now, you folks, when you have to work with child services, you have a good working relationship with them, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have operational agreements with 11 different organizations in Santa Cruz to help us with that.
And I think that's so important because as I've done some work in the past with people, men or women, who've had legal issues around their custody and support issues, they found it very challenging to work with CPS, and they are very well-meaning people, and they provide a great service, but to kind of forge that relationship, and let the people who are your clients and your participants know that you will be able to help them, into a much more welcoming and really productive relationship with that. I think it's important.
Yeah, I think that with the public, there's a huge fear immediately. Oh, my children are going to be taken away, and that's not what they do. They specialize in keeping families together. It's only in the most severe circumstances that a child would be taken out of the home.
And I do think, although it may not be directly related to what we're talking about here, it is worth mentioning. Because there is that fear, and
Absolutely.
I think there's a fear of that. There's, as I mentioned, the fear of the deportation for women of color who are being abused. My gosh, I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want my partner, the person who is providing for my family, to be deported potentially. And so it's such a huge fear, and particularly now.
Yes, and this is really what Walnut Avenue really strives to focus on. Social justice, because it is a social justice issue, both the early childhood education, but also the domestic violence services. If you don't have child care, but you have children, you can't get a job. So you can't necessarily pull yourself out of poverty if you don't have a safe place to give your child. With domestic violence, it really is those. It's a tragedy that happens. And you're not safe, you're not comfortable to speak out, and we really want to increase the opportunities for people to safely reach out, because we all want the same thing. We want safe and healthy homes. We want a reduction in violence. We want kids that are healthy and not traumatized, and you know.
And that is the tragic part of it, you know, the silence of abuse, you know, that kind of
Yes.
thing, you know, that's
Definitely.
pervasive, I think, you know, in our society. And when you do take the opportunity to volunteer and go through the training, you learn a lot about that. It's enlightening. It really opens, you know, the average person's eyes to exactly what makes this, what this dynamic is, you know, how it operates, and what we can do as not only individual citizens, but potentially trainees and hotline responders to really address that in a substantive way.
Yeah,
That's
and really
important.
take the shame out of it. You know, we all
There-
have our
exactly.
family
Boy, oh
secrets,
boy.
and we all have
Yeah.
our challenges,
Boy, oh
and
boy, you
and
know.
it's not. We want to reduce the stigma
Yeah.
around it, and we want to just really help people thrive and be healthy. And there's services for people who, you know, a lot of people who perpetrate abuse have been abused themselves, so they're victims as well. They're survivors, and so sometimes it's a matter of just educating families about better communication skills and how to discipline without using.
Because I can still
spanking or
recall,
other.
and this is years past, and I really would like to think I'm more knowledgeable about it currently than maybe I am, but the percentage of people who are abusers who had been abused themselves, you know, it's
incredible.
remarkable. You know?
Yeah,
and that's the cycle
absolutely.
of it. You
And
know?
that's the cycle of violence. If that's the only way that you know how to, you know, deal with your anger or how to manage in relationships, then, you know, how are you supposed to learn anything different if that's what was modeled to you?
And we're all trying to learn, you know,
Absolutely.
and trying to help people as we can. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the
Definitely.
social justice aspect of it, because that is extremely important. We have about another minute, Julie.
Okay.
This time has flown by. It's been wonderful having you here.
Yes,
Thank you so much for your work. But in the last minute, anything you'd like to say about the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center and how we're going to move into the future together?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you know, it's all about that social justice piece and really getting out there and speaking about the need for childcare, quality early childhood education in Santa Cruz, but also, you know, the resources. We have so many wonderful services here in Santa Cruz. And I encourage everyone to be involved. You know, you can become involved in Walnut in a lot of different ways. We have a Friends of Walnut Avenue group that we're trying to get off the ground. We have an endowment fund that we're starting. We have the Shannon Collins Memorial Garden Project where you can come and garden in the yard. And lots of volunteer opportunities. So I would just say give us a call.
Well, among the wonderful things that happen here in Santa Cruz is the great work done by the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center. Julie Macecevic, thank you so much for being here. I actually pronounced your name right twice. I'm so pleased with myself. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for all your great work and all the great work that I know that you will do for the community in the future. Thanks for tuning in again for this month's edition of Nonprofit Spotlight. Tune in again next month. We'll be highlighting another one of the wonderful nonprofits in our city and county that's doing all this great work that's really making a community better for all of us. So until then, next time, I'm Steve Pleich, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Terrific. Oh, it's great. It's
that's
great.
wonderful.
A lot of good information. And I really would like to get people enthusiastic about coming and volunteering, and that's how you break that cycle. You know, is get people
Absolutely.
involved.